What does revenge look like when it's been waiting 400 years to speak? Can a woman's hand hold a sword, or does the sword hold her? There is a painting, and in it someone is dying, slowly, by design. Watch closely, because this is not murder, this is prayer. The year is 1614, maybe 1620. Time blurs when trauma is involved. A woman named Artemisia Gentileschi stands before a canvas in Rome, where the air smells of incense and conspiracy, where the Vatican casts its shadow like a sleeping god. She is 21 or 27. The records disagree. What they do agree on is this: 2 years before she was raped. 5 months after that she was tortured in a courtroom, metal screws tightening around her fingers, her thumbs to prove she wasn't lying. The court asked her to bleed for the truth, so she learned to paint in blood instead. The Baroque era worshipped spectacle, light breaking through darkness, angels descending, martyrs ascending. But Artemisia painted something the church did not commission, did not expect, did not know how to look at without flinching. She painted a woman who stopped waiting to be saved. 2 women lean over a man on white sheets. One grips a sword buried halfway through his throat. The other presses him down as he claws at the air, mouth gaping, blood spraying in dark wings across the cloth, and no one is coming, and no one will stop them, and the light does not forgive. This is the most dangerous painting of the 17th century. Not because of the violence. Violence was everywhere, sanctified, celebrated. Christ bled on 10,000 altarpieces. Saints were flayed and burned and pierced for the glory of heaven. The Baroque loved blood, but this blood is different. This blood belongs to a man, and it is spilled by women, deliberately, methodically, without regret. Some call it a biblical scene, others call it autobiography in disguise. A few refuse to call it art at all, only evidence, evidence of rage, evidence of survival, evidence that sometimes the victim picks up the knife and finishes what the courts could not. And maybe it is all of these things, maybe it is none, maybe the painting itself is a throat, half cut, still trying to speak. Rome, 1610s. The city is a wound pretending to be holy. Plague sweeps the streets. Beggars sleep in the shadows of basilicas. The Inquisition still burns books, still questions heretics, still believes the world can be purified through pain. Women are either saints or whores, virgins or witches. There is no middle ground, no grey. The Baroque is born from this schism, from the tension between ecstasy and agony, between heaven's light and the gravity of sin. Caravaggio had already torn down the veil, painted saints with dirty feet, angels with peasant faces, made divinity touchable, breakable, real. The church wanted emotion, wanted congregations to feel salvation, to witness suffering as if they were standing at the foot of the cross. But Caravaggio's revolution had limits. He painted prostitutes as Madonnas, yes, but they were still his prostitutes, still posed, still imagined through a male gaze that could afford to be generous, because it never feared being consumed. Artemisia learned from Caravaggio, learned his chiaroscuro, his stark drama, his refusal to flinch, but she took it somewhere he never could, because in 1612 she stood in a courtroom, and she said the words, "He raped me." And the judges, men of God, men of law, looked at her and said, "Prove it." So they twisted metal around her fingers, tightened, waited, watched for her to break, to recant, to admit she was lying. She did not break. The rapist was convicted, sentenced to exile. He never served a day. Artemisia was 19 years old. Her hands would never forget, and neither would her paintings. Artemisia Gentileschi was born into oil paint and silence. Her father, Orazio, was a painter, a follower of Caravaggio. Talented, ambitious, aware that talent in a daughter was both gift and burden. He trained her because she was brilliant. He also trained her because he could not afford not to. Her mother was dead, her brothers uninterested, and genius does not wait for permission. but genius in a woman was always suspect. She could not attend the academies, could not study nude models, could not walk the streets alone or sign contracts without a man's name beside hers. Her world was a studio with locked doors, and into that studio came Agostino Tarsi, her father's colleague, a painter of perspectives and architectural illusions, a man who understood how to make walls disappear. He raped her, promised marriage to salvage her honor, then reneged. When her father brought charges, Tarsi claimed she was a whore, that she'd had many lovers, that she wanted it. The trial became a theatre of humiliation. Midwives examined her body, witnesses were brought, and Artemisia, her hand shattered by torture, was asked to paint in the courtroom to prove she was really an artist, really her father's daughter, really worth believing. She painted, she was believed, it didn't matter. So she left Rome, married a minor painter, moved to Florence, joined the Accademia, and she kept painting women, women holding swords, women holding daggers, women who did not wait for rescue or redemption, but took the thing they needed from the world by force. She painted Judith at least twice, some say 3 times. Each time the blood gets brighter, the blade goes deeper, Judith's face grows calmer. Was it catharsis? Capitalism? Both? Does it matter if she was healing or just surviving? Does it matter if the painting is a scream or a product? Maybe the only thing that matters is that she painted it, that she made you look, that she made you feel the weight of the sword in your own hands, and asked you quietly, coldly, whether you would have the strength to push it through. The hands. Begin here, with the hands. Judith's hands are locked around the sword's grip like they were born there. Both of them, knuckles white, tendons raised. She is not holding the blade, she is becoming it. Her arms brace against the resistance, against the fact that necks do not sever cleanly, that bone fights back, that killing is work. The blade is halfway through, maybe more. Blood streams from the wound, thick and dark as altar wine, spraying across the white sheets in patterns that look almost decorative until you remember what they are. Her hands do not shake, they do not hesitate, they have already decided, is this the grip of a heroine, or the grip of someone who knows there is no going back, no mercy, no court that will call this justice, only the cold clarity of necessity. Judith's face, look at her face, look at what is not there. No rage, no ecstasy, no horror. Her expression is almost serene, not peaceful, but decided. The kind of calm that comes after the choice has been made, after the moment of doubt has passed, and there is only the task. Her brow furrows slightly, not in anger, in concentration. She is working. Caravaggio painted this scene too, years earlier. His Judith recoils. Her face twists in disgust. She holds the sword at arm's length, as if the act repulses her, as if she is doing something she wishes she didn't have to do. Artemisia's Judith does not recoil. She leans in. Is this strength, or is this something we don't have a word for yet? Something between survival and annihilation, between righteousness and rage. Holofernes' face. He is awake. That is the first horror. His eyes are wide, white-rimmed, already seeing the other side. His mouth gapes open in a scream that will never leave his throat. The blade has seen to that. Blood pours from his lips, from the wound, from everywhere. His hands claw weakly at Judith's wrists, at the air, at nothing. But his strength is already leaving, draining, pooling on the sheets beneath him. The Baroque loved beautiful deaths, loved martyrs who died with grace, with eyes turned toward heaven, with hands clasped in prayer. Even violent deaths were aestheticized, made holy, made distant, made safe. This is not that. This is a man choking on his own blood. This is a body becoming meat. This is what death actually looks like when no one is watching to make it noble. And Artemisia painted it, knowing you would see his face, knowing you would wonder who she saw when she painted it, knowing you would ask, is this Holofernes, or is this someone else? Judith does not do this alone. Abra, her maidservant, her conspirator, leans across the bed, her hands pressing down on Holofernes' chest, pinning him. Her face is hard, determined. She is not watching, she is working. In the Bible, Abra is barely mentioned, a servant who carries the head in a basket, a footnote. In Artemisia's painting she is essential. Without her, Judith could not do this. Without her weight, Holofernes might still fight, might escape, might live. 2 women, 1 sword, 1 choice. There is no ambiguity here. This is not self-defense in a moment of panic. This is premeditated. This is strategy. They came with a plan. They knew what they were going to do, and they are doing it together. Does this make them monstrous? Or does it mean that sometimes survival requires more than 1 pair of hands? The blood. The blood is not symbolic. It does not glow. It does not shimmer. It does not evoke the sacred wounds of Christ or the martyred saints or the holy sacrifice. It sprays, it pools, it drips from the edge of the blade onto the white sheets below, staining them in dark, wet blossoms that will never wash out. Artemisia does not sanitize it, does not make it abstract, does not allow you to look away and call it allegory. This is a man's blood, spilled by women, and it is everywhere. In Baroque theology, blood was redemption. Christ's blood washed away sin. The blood of martyrs watered the faith. Blood was sacred. Blood was necessary. Blood was the price of heaven. But whose blood are we talking about? And who gets to decide when the spilling is holy? The story is old, older than paint. It comes from the Book of Judith, a deuterocanonical text accepted by Catholics, rejected by Protestants, debated by everyone. In the story, the Jewish city of Bethulia is under siege by the Assyrian army, led by the brutal general Holofernes. The people are starving, desperate, ready to surrender. Then Judith, a beautiful, wealthy widow, makes a choice. She dresses in her finest clothes, perfumes herself, walks into the enemy camp, and offers herself to Holofernes as a prize. He takes her into his tent, gets drunk, falls asleep, and Judith, with the help of her maidservant, takes his own sword and severs his head from his body. She returns to Bethulia with the head in a sack. The Assyrians, leaderless, scatter. The city is saved. Judith becomes a hero, a saint, a symbol. But of what? The church called her virtue triumphant, humility defeating pride, the faithful delivered by God's hand. In sermons and treatises, Judith was the soul resisting temptation, the church beheading heresy, the virgin crushing the serpent's head. But the text itself is stranger, more ambiguous. Judith lies, seduces, murders. She uses her beauty as a weapon. Her femininity is camouflage. She is cunning and ruthless, and utterly unrepentant, and the text praises her for it. Renaissance and Baroque artists loved the story because it gave them everything: eroticism, violence, drama, moral clarity. Judith could be painted as both seductress and saint. The moment of the beheading could be rendered as righteous or terrifying, depending on what the patron wanted. But Artemisia's version does not feel neutral, does not feel decorative, it feels personal. In the 17th century, theologians debated whether Judith's actions were truly virtuous. She lied, she seduced, she killed. Even if the cause was just, did the ends justify the means? Could deceit ever be holy? Could murder ever be prayer? The church said yes. When the enemy is evil enough, when the stakes are high enough, when God's people need saving. But what if Judith wasn't saving a city? What if she was just saving herself? Not everyone agrees what this painting means. Some say it is dangerous to read too much biography into it, that Artemisia was a professional, painting for patrons who wanted spectacle, that she understood the market, understood that strong women sold, that Judith was a popular subject long before Artemisia, and she was simply following a tradition, adding her own Caravagesque flair. In this reading, the painting is not revenge fantasy. It is not therapy. It is not autobiography hidden in oil paint. It is art. Brilliant, calculated, strategic. To reduce it to trauma, they argue, is to diminish Artemisia's genius, to imply she could not separate her personal pain from her professional skill, to turn her into a victim again, when she fought so hard to be seen as an artist. And there is truth here. Artemisia was brilliant, She understood anatomy, composition, the weight of drapery, the physics of light. She knew how to make a painting sell. She knew how to impress rival painters, how to secure noble patrons, how to survive in a profession that barely allowed her to exist. To flatten her into pure catharsis is to erase half of her. But others see something else. Feminist scholars and psychoanalytic critics argue that the painting cannot be divorced from Artemisia's lived experience. The timeline is too precise. The trial in 1612, the torture, the humiliation, and then within 2 years this. A woman sawing through a man's throat with clinical precision, the same hands that were crushed to prove her honesty, now painted holding a sword. How can we not see the connection? In this reading, Judith Beheading Holofernes is not just a painting. It is testimony. It is the thing Artemisia could not say in court, the thing the law would not acknowledge, the thing the world refused to hear. So she made it visible, made it undeniable, made you look, and maybe both interpretations are true. Maybe Artemisia was a strategic professional, and a woman painting her way through trauma. Maybe the painting is technical mastery and a scream frozen in oil. Maybe she sold it to feed herself, and painted it to survive herself. Maybe we do not get to choose. Maybe the painting holds all of it at once, the way a wound holds both pain and scar tissue, the way a throat half cut can still impossibly try to breathe. The painting still hangs today. In the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, tourists walk past it, some pausing, some hurrying on. It is famous now, canonical, studied in textbooks, analysed in dissertations. Artemisia is no longer erased. She is remembered, but the painting has not softened with time. The blood is still wet, the blade is still mid-stroke, Judith's hands are still steady, and maybe that is what haunts us. Not that the violence happened, but that it had to. Not that Artemisia painted it, but that she had no other way to be believed. If this painting made you question what art can hold, what women are allowed to feel, or paint, or do, then let it stay with you, let it unsettle, let it remain unresolved. Subscribe if you want more stories like this, stories about the art they tried to silence, the voices they tried to bury, the images that refuse to fade, because some paintings do not ask for your comfort, they ask for your attention, and this one demands it.